Hello, I'm old Mr. Kent. I'm 82 years old, out on my morning e-trike ride. And so we'll see if they can get down this rough area of this road, which is usually pretty nice road, although it's Saturday morning, March 1st, and I see somebody coming on their motorcycle. So I probably want to get over to the side here. And it looks like he's going to go over to the side. All right. Might be a rugged start to my video. Well, in the last two videos, I've been talking about my neighborhoods. I'm sorry. First neighborhood was in Cheyenne when I was 3 years old. Second neighborhood was in 6 miles east of Renton, Washington, when I was 5 to when I was about almost 10 years old, I guess. And the third neighborhood was when my folks moved into Seattle, right almost downtown Seattle, in the house that I've talked about in previous videos. It was a very fancy house, and like I said before, the governor of Washington State had once lived in that house. It's not there anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I hope it didn't burn down or something. But anyway, so it was, the neighborhood it was in was a fancy neighborhood. It was, well, anyway, big deal. So the people next to us on the north side, and we got a little breeze, so I hope this is going to work out okay. People on the north side was an older couple, and their name was Hotley, and believe it or not, the man supported him and his wife by selling courses for drawing, art courses, learning how to draw. See, back then, either you took a picture with a camera or you drew the picture yourself. And like, for instance, when I was in college, I was an art minor, and I learned how to draw pictures. And like the one that I drew for my folks to show, because I didn't have a camera anyway, to show them my living quarters. And so that's what he did. He sold art courses. And he showed me his layout one time, and it's pretty fancy, and you paid. And then every month you got a new set of instructions, and it taught you how to sketch and paint and all that kind of stuff. So that's what they did. And they liked my little brother and my little sister. They were pretty good friends. Now the next two houses north, north of us, we lived on the corner, so I'll just move up north from the corner we lived on. The next two houses were owned by people that were related to each other. It was the Van Dykes and the Vanderlips. And Frank Vanderlip was the buddy that I hung around with a lot. Him and another kid that lived a block or two to the west, his name was Gary. And the three of us, we hung together and did a lot of fun things. I talked about Gary one time. He and I were on 15th Avenue, which is where all the stores were back then. You had grocery stores and dime stores and drug stores and all kinds of stores along that street. And there had been, at one time, a filling station. I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, I said. Anyway, there had been a filling station, and the old-fashioned fuel pumps, the filling station pumps, I sat in the car and watched as my dad stopped at a filling station one time, and you told him how many gallons you wanted, and there was a pump on the side, and the guy would pump and pump and pump until he got up to like 5 gallons or 8 gallons or whatever you asked for, and then he would take the nozzle, put it in your tank, and pull the handle, and that gasoline would be just gravity flow through the hose, and it would go into your tank. And that's how they did it back in those days. And then they finally got electric pumps that worked like they do nowadays. But that's how they did it back then. So there was this fuel pump that hadn't been used for many, many years because the gas station was closed years before. Gary and I were walking along the street, and I've told this story before, but some of you may have not heard it. And we came to that. We were goofing around, and I said, "Hey, man, I need more gas." And I said, "Fill me up." So he took the filler upper, stuck it in my hip pocket, and said, "How many gallons you want?" I says, "Oh, fill it up." So he pulled the handle, and we went look and all that, and then he hung it up, and he said, "That'll be $2 or something." And I paid him. I says, "Now you need to fill up." He said, "Yep." So what I did was I took the handle and I pumped, like they did in the old days, and then I stuck it in his pocket, and I pulled the handle. Apparently I had pumped some gas out of somewhere, because when I pulled that handle, he got soaked with gasoline. And his pants were just, and of course then it started burning, so he had to hurry home, change his pants, and take a shower and all that stuff. Well, he and I, we spent a lot of time doing stuff like that, and Frank Vanderlip, and I hung out at Frank Vanderlip's house a lot, partly because when I was doing my paper route, his dad in the backyard had a big, an old wooden garage for 2 cars, but one side it was separated. One side was for parking cars, and then there was a wall, and the other side was for parking cars. But that's where we would go to get our papers for our paper route. Go around here and get on a paved road. And so I got real familiar with that. Well, there was also a pear tree, an old pear tree in the backyard, and it still grew pears, but it was like, I would say, well, let's see, look at some of these trees around here, right where I'm going by. Some of these trees, it was tall like that, and we would climb up in those trees. We thought about making a fort, but the only thing is pear trees, the wood in the pear tree is let's say, not mushy, but it's not like regular wood, and so it's you hammer a nail into it, and then the nail can work its way out real easy. So it wasn't really good for making a fort. But we went up there and hung out up there, and then when somebody would walk down the alley, we'd throw pears at them, and or if they drove down the alley, we'd throw pears at them and things like that. And so we did that. Well, also I don't know if it was a mile, probably about a mile. I'll say about a mile to the north, there was a park called Volunteer Park, and it was a fairly big park. In fact, it had a reservoir, great big reservoir, and it also had a water storage tank, and the water storage tank was surrounded by a brick enclosure, and it was made so that you could go in a door in the brick enclosure, and then there was a circular staircase that went around, was fastened to the water tank, and you walk all the way around and get up to the top of the storage tank, and then there was like a roof on top of the metal enclosure on top of the storage tank, and you could walk across on that. And I guess you can still hear me. And you could walk across on that, and then there was windows, or not openings. They weren't windows. They were openings that you couldn't get out of, so it was safe. But so then you could look out. You could look out the west side, and you could see Elliott Bay in Seattle. Look out over Seattle and the Elliott Bay, and then you go to the opposite side, and you could see Lake Washington. And so it was a nice viewpoint. And that was one nice thing. And then they also had an art museum, and they also had, I guess they call it what do they call it? A conservatory or something like that, where they grew flowers and small trees and stuff like that inside of a glass building. And the picture I have only shows the center of it. It went out in both directions from that center place. And when we went there, we didn't hang around much and all that stuff. But, well, actually, we climbed up the stairs of the water tower because that was fun. But then they also had a wading pool. And I don't, the picture that I was able to get off of YouTube of the wading pool shows the wading pool being a lot larger than I remember it being. And so I don't think it was, they might have redone it or something. But anyway, what I would do, I used to make model boats. I would make the frame out of toothpicks, and then I would cover it with paper and glue it, make it all, and paint it, and make it all waterproof, and put a little electric motor in there with a shaft and a propeller. And then I would take it to that park, put it in the wading pool, and let it go, and it would start and go across to the other side, and I'd go catch it and run it back and forth. So that was, that was much better than running it in a bathtub. One day I was doing that, and this lady, I don't know where she came from, but anyway, she was looking at it, and she said, she asked me all about it, and I showed it to her, how it was made out of toothpicks and covered with paper, and it would paint it up really nice, blue and white or something. And so she wanted to take a picture of it and everything. I don't know where she was from, but anyway. So I did that. And but us kids, we'd go to the park, and it was just someplace to go, and we didn't have any special reason to go there. About when you go to the north end of the park, well then beyond that there was a big old Catholic church, and then behind the Catholic church there was a ledge that was like I don't know, I think it probably dropped down several hundred feet, and it was all sand. And that is now where the I-5 freeway is. They built it right along that ledge because it was wasted land, I guess you'd say. Anyway, but we would make paths down that and go up and down that, and then jump as far as we could and land in the sand below. And that was just one of the things we did. And and so that was our activities that we did. And I'm trying to think of some other things we did outside of the park. We would walk downtown, or we would catch a bus and go downtown. The Bon Marché, which was right in the center of downtown Seattle at the time, we could go down there, and on the 6th floor, they had their hobby shop, and that's where I would always go down there and buy my models and buy balsa wood and all the things I needed to work on my hobbies. And so that was our neighborhood. Our neighborhood was downtown Seattle, I guess you'd say. And then we had, there was a kid that lived across from me. His name was Charles, and he was pure Indian, and he was proud of it, and we had a lot of fun together. And let's see, I'm trying to think of all the other, I should probably tell you about the girls. There was another park. If you go north, you go to Volunteer Park. If you go south, I don't remember the name of the park, and it wasn't very big, but it had like a giant checkerboard where the old guys, the pieces had hooks on them, and then the old guys had sticks, and they'd pick them up and they'd put them on this checkerboard that was painted on the concrete, and they would play checkers, or they were probably maybe playing chess. I don't know what they were playing, but I'd go down there, or all of us would go down there, and we'd watch them playing chess and stuff like that. And there was a little reservoir down there too. And so and by the way, my bicycle was my lifeline. I mean, I went everywhere on my bicycle. And so I went down. I was just riding my bike one day, and I went down there. And I don't remember what I was doing, just riding along or looking at the guys playing chess or something. And there was these two girls about my age. They were down there. And they started talking to me or whatever. We visited for a while. And they said, "Do you want to come see where we live?" And I said, "Sure." And so they lived in an apartment house that's about a half a block away from where we were. And they lived up on the second floor. And so I went with them, went up, and they had this apartment where, let's see, it would be on the west side of the apartment was a big window, and you could look out, and you could look down at the street. And I looked down, there was my bike parked down there. And then as you came back through, it was kind of just straight through. You came back through, the kitchen was there, and then you came back further, and there wasn't a bedroom. They just had their bed back there and their play area or whatever you want to call it. And this was like when I was in junior high, and I don't remember what they were doing, but they wanted me to help them or do something with them. I don't remember what it was, but they kept wanting me to help them out with it or do something with it, and I kept wondering about my bicycle, and they assured me it was okay. They assured me that it was okay, and I didn't have to go look and see if it was still there. But I went and looked and see if it was still there. And I don't remember very much. But anyway, like they were sitting on the edge of the bed or something. I don't remember. But they kept wanting me to do whatever it was they were wanting me to do. And so I wasn't easy just leaving my bike sit out there. And so I kept, I wish I could remember the details, but I don't. But I think they were enticing me now that I'm older. But I kept getting up and then going and checking my bike. Finally, they said, "Well, why don't you just go get on your bike and go home?" So that's what I did. and so that's one story about the girls. And then there was this other girl, and I do not remember. I wish I could remember her name because we became really good friends. And I met her because, as I say, I was always riding my bike, and this was like a block north of our house and about 2 blocks, no, it was a block west of our house and about maybe 2 blocks north. I'm going to turn around here because there's dogs barking up there. And so I was riding my bike along one day, and here was this girl sitting on this ledge next to the sidewalk out in front of an apartment house. And she waved and said hi, so I stopped, and we started visiting. And I mean, we just enjoyed visiting with each other, and we actually eventually became good friends. And she said her mother was upstairs with a sailor. And so, that kind of tells you what her mother did, because many times I came by, she was sitting out in front because her mother was upstairs with a sailor. But anyway, so we went to the park together, and just had fun, just like me and the guys, just had fun going to the park and going up on top of the water tank and all the other things the rest of us did. In fact, I even gave her a ride on the back of my bike to the park and all that. And we were good friends. And one day, I think it must have been a Saturday, because she said, I'm going to be babysitting tonight if you want to come see me. And I said, okay. And so she, I don't remember how it went, but she wrote the address down on a piece of paper, or I wrote it down or something. Anyway, and she told me, be there about 6 o'clock. And so that night I said, I'm going to go visit a friend. I might even said girlfriend. And I didn't want to go. It's too windy today, but anyway, I hope you can still hear me. So anyway, around 6 o'clock, I got on my bike and I went and found the address and knocked on the door, and she came to the door and she says, shh, I finally got the baby asleep. And so went in, and the bedroom was over here, and the couch was over here, and she said, I finally got the baby asleep, let's go sit on the couch. So she sat on the end of the couch, and I sat next to her, and we're sitting there visiting, and she grabbed some cigarettes, and she says, you want a cigarette? I said, no, thank you. So she lights up a cigarette, and she, like, really cool. And so she's smoking, and then she takes the cigarette and she reaches over the arm of the chair and flips the ashes. Well, where I come from, that starts a fire. So I reach over, way over, and check to see if there's anything happening, and there wasn't. So then I sat back down again, and we visited a little bit more. Pretty soon, she flips the ashes again. I reached way over. I don't know what she was trying to do, but anyway, I didn't see any flames. So I, was sitting there like that. And I think she got a little more irritated with me every time I reach over to see if there was any flames. And then, for some reason, I don't know what the deal was, but pretty soon I heard the baby kind of cry. And so she said, now you woke the baby up. And she says, might as well go home. So I said goodbye, got on my bike, went back home. But anyway, and then that poor girl, she had nothing to guide her or anything. But I remembered her. And several years later, when I was active in Youth for Christ, and I would take a load of kids. See, my folks moved down 14 miles south of Seattle, down by SeaTac, Seattle Tacoma Airport. And I was active in Youth for Christ, and every Saturday night, I would take a load of kids in my car, take them from down there, take them up to Seattle to a Youth for Christ rally, because there were about 20 schools in the Seattle area that had Youth for Christ clubs, and they would all bring kids into town to the rally. And I always did that, unless I was taking a girl on a date, and I just took me and her. But normally I'd be loading a bunch of kids, and so had a bunch of kids in the car. We went to the rally, and then coming home, you always had to go down 2nd Avenue in downtown Seattle, and of course that's where all the prostitutes were and stuff. And I remember going along real slow because of traffic, and I looked, and here was that girl walking along. You know what she was doing, and to this day, I remember looking at her there and thinking, that's too bad. That's how she turned out. So anyway, that was my neighborhood, and that was the experiences that I had. And I guess I'm out of memories of what happened, anything else that might have happened. But that was my neighborhood from downtown Seattle. Now, that's all the neighborhoods I'm going to tell you about, because when my folks moved to the SeaTac area, then there wasn't, by that time I was in high school, and I was never home. I met the neighbors and said hi, and there just wasn't anything in my neighborhood that I related to, because by now I was, active in things at school and Youth for Christ, busy doing other things. So that's all the neighborhood stories. I hope you're probably smiling and saying, glad that's over. So my next video is going to be a little different, but I got some plans made for that. So anyway, hope you like this video. I want to thank you for watching, and God bless.